Thousands of anti-vaccine protesters took to the streets of France and Italy on Saturday.
Tens of thousands marched on Parliament. They were out in force protesting against pandemic laws and mandatory vaccines.
What should be done with the 10% or so of the population that refuses to get vaccinated? Aside from holding them down and forcefully jabbing them, what can the government do? Do we keep coercing and vilifying those that refuse the jab?
If you are out there in any way, shape or form campaigning against this mandate, you are absolutely anti-vax. If you say pro-persuasion, stuff it, shove it.
How did we get to this point? How did we let politics infiltrate the conversation around vaccination? Have governments been too strict or inconsistent with COVID policy? How many people have lost trust in their government?
How are we this unprepared 2 years into the pandemic when we have known from very early on that testing is such a critical part of controlling this pandemic?
It wasn't so long ago that journalists and politicians, was it across the West, were derided or labelled racist for suggesting, admittedly with plenty of supporting evidence, that COVID-19 started with a leak from the Wuhan Institute of Virology.
And lab accidents happen. It's common.
Since the start of the Canadian Truckers for Freedom movement, the country's political system has been rattled. The leader of the opposition Conservative Party, Erin O'Toole, was ousted. The new leader, Candice Bergen, has taken a stronger stance on the issue.
Canadians are telling the Prime Minister they want to get back to work, they want to get back to normal life. That's why we're seeing demonstrations not only in Ottawa, but right across the country. The Prime Minister has caused division by overtly politicizing vaccines and the pandemic and calling these Canadians names. And now he's saying these protests really aren't his problem. They're the provinces or maybe even the cities. When will the Prime Minister stop hiding, show up for Canadians, show some leadership, and fix the mess that he's created?
And what we know is the best way we can get out of this pandemic is to get vaccinated. We're all tired. We're all frustrated.
Here's the leader of the New Democratic Party, Jagmeet Singh. He says Justin Trudeau has abdicated his responsibility to try and reach a resolution.
If it was always predicted that there will be a percentage of people that don't get vaccinated, it's not a good excuse to say, well, because of them, we're being overrun. There needs to be enough resources available in our healthcare system to deal with that. We can't force everybody. We want to encourage people. We want to make it as easy as possible. And we want to use the tools that we have to encourage vaccination. And we have. 90% is pretty good. Now what we need to do is, okay, how do we live with this COVID-19?
A lot of media coverage has pointed to connections with insurrectionists in the USA, foreign interference, and other far-right folks. Or, as the Prime Minister has alluded to,
the small fringe minority of people who are on their way to Ottawa or who are holding unacceptable views that they're expressing do not represent the views of Canadians.
Since the protest erupted in Ottawa, the province of Alberta has dropped all of their COVID mandates. Other jurisdictions around the world are going in a similar direction. The UK is lifting all of their restrictions and mandates. Australia is opening their landlocked border to fully vaccinated tourists for the first time in almost 2 years. Back to my original question, what will governments do with all of the unvaccinated? Can they keep imposing restrictions? And other than blockades and demonstrations, what are the unvaccinated going to do about it? The Canadian government is being sued by Brian Peckford over vaccine mandates. Peckford is the last surviving premier involved in drafting the Charter of Rights and Freedoms in 1982. He's alleging the government's vaccine mandates for air travel are unconstitutional. And in the US, 49 Republicans are looking to shut down the government over mandates. So vaccine politics have reached a nasty fever pitch. What rate of death to infection will it take for governments to end their emergency power reign?
But this is going to be the answer to our problems. So let's all pull together and make sure, as we look forward to the next 30 days, we do it with all the intensity and force that we can.
Here we are, still unsure. And that uncertainty has stoked a burning resentment in a lot of people. Maybe we need to see a more coherent plan as to how we're going to get out of this pandemic, or at least live with this virus in a sustainable way.